the best game you
Stompin'
can name.
Tom Connors, the hockey song, to open up this season's final installment of the Hamilton Bulldogs Hockey Hour, coming to you live from Frank and Teresa's Anchor Bar, located inside of Jackson Square, right next to First Ontario Centre in downtown Hamilton. And the reason we decided to go with that song was because here, not for the show, but he is here while we're having a show, a former member of the New York Rangers, Toronto Maple Leafs, Boston Bruins, Los Angeles Kings, Buffalo Sabres, and Pittsburgh Penguins in the National Hockey League, the Providence Reds, Springfield Indians, and Rochester Americans in the American Hockey League. Clear the track. It's Eddie Shack, everybody.
If you failed to mention the Guelph Biltmore Mad Hatters. And he's wearing a Biltmore, probably. Sweet Daddy Shacky. How's it going?
We'd have you on, but the guys told us that probably wasn't a good idea. But you look great. Great to have a hockey legend here at Frank and Teresa's Anchor Bar. And a little bit later on in today's show, we've got two very good players for the Hamilton Bulldogs. We've got Louis Leblanc, who's coming up in our second segment, and Greg Pateryn in our third segment.
A forward and a defenseman. Seems like a pretty good idea. We had a goalie last week in Mr. Dubnyk. So we're covering all areas of the ice,
and
as they do.
Yes.
Both those guys.
Special hello to the Growl. A bunch of the Growl members are here tonight having a meeting. Give yourselves a round of applause. And I gave the Growl a shout-out on Friday and Saturday of last week because 28 members of the Growl got on a bus, traveled 6 hours to Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania to watch the Hamilton Bulldogs play the Penguins, and then traveled about 2.5 hours to Syracuse, New York to watch the Bulldogs beat the Syracuse Crunch 2-1 in a shootout. So they certainly got their money's worth with that second game.
Yeah, I heard the publicity. Got your back.
Yes. Speaking of those two games, before we move any further with this week's show, let's recap the week that was with the Hamilton Bulldogs. 3 games in 3 days. Now, 2 weekends ago, they had 3-3 all at home.
Right.
Last weekend, 3-3 all on the road. And as mentioned, a long bus ride, about 6 hours from Hamilton to Wilkes-Barre for that game against the Penguins at Mohegan Sun Arena at Casey Plaza on Friday. And after meeting for the first time in more than 5 years, 2 weekends ago, last Friday's game, the second in 7 days between the two teams.
Oh, boy. That's got to be tough, playing these teams over and over again like that and quite proximity of the previous game. But I guess they have to put up with it, particularly in the American Hockey League, and get some great rivalries going because of it, though.
Yes.
That's the one good thing.
And Wilkes-Barre Scranton defeated Hamilton 4-2 at First Ontario Centre back on March 8th. And after being a healthy scratch in last Sunday's game against the Lake Erie Monsters, Bulldogs captain Martin St. Pierre back in the lineup for last Friday's contest versus the Penguins, playing on a line with Gabriel Dumont and Mike Blunden. So the coach puts him with 2 of the top players on the team, 2 guys who work really hard, shift in, shift out, game in, game out, and I thought that line did a pretty good job for the Hamilton Bulldogs.
I thought so, and of course that's what the coach has got to do. He's got to look for that combination. It's going to click, and it's an ongoing process, and there are times during the season when things go awry. Got to do it then. So it's not necessarily every single game, but it did work out. They look pretty good.
Strong starts were not the Hamilton Bulldogs' modus operandi last season.
No.
As a matter of fact, I remember a stretch where they gave up the first goal in 15 straight games, but this season, strong starts have been something we've been seeing a lot of from the Hamilton Bulldogs. Another strong start last Friday against the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins. The Dogs then get a power play, but the Pens open scoring with a rare goal. On that note, here are the highlights. Speeds up, goes to the backhand and scores! Andrew Ebbets fakes forehand, goes backhand, and buries it on the penalty shot. And after scoring 2 goals and adding an assist in the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins 4-2 victory over the Hamilton Bulldogs last Saturday, Andrew Ebbets at it again tonight. He's got the game's opening goal, and the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins have a 1-0 lead. Manderson into the high slot. Zublik shoots and scores! Anton Zlobin with a wicked wrist shot from the slot, and he wires it right over the right shoulder of Devin Dubnyk into the top corner of the Hamilton Bulldogs net. And after scoring a shorthanded penalty shot goal to take a 1-0 lead, the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins tally on the power play and make it 2-0. St. Pierre back to the blue line. Sweetar with a shot kicked away by Benino. Rebound, and they score! Mike Blunden picks up a loose puck in front and slips it under Peter Benino. And the Hamilton Bulldogs get a goal back, cutting the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins lead to 2-1. Kobasu shoots, good save by Dubnyk. Rebound, and they score! Playing in his first game for the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins, Chuck Kobasu gets his first goal as a member of the Pens. A big one for the home team, who were certainly back on their heels prior to scoring that goal. The Hamilton Bulldogs have pretty much dominated the second period, but the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins get a 2-goal lead back and make it 3-1. Here's Dumoulin, a shot, and he scores! Loose puck in the near circle to Devin Dubnyk's left, picked up by Brian Dumoulin, who gets a weak shot away, and the puck bounces right between the pads of the Hamilton Bulldogs goaltender. And a couple of quick goals by the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins gives them a 4-1 lead. Lobin heads hard to the net, shoots and scores! That may have been the first grade A scoring chance the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins have had in this third period. And we are 12 minutes and 43 seconds into period number 3. And Anton Zlobin capitalizes on that scoring chance. They are going to review the goal, but for now, it is 5-1 Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins. They'll just drop the puck, and that'll be the end of this hockey game. And despite outshooting the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins 27-19 and outchancing them, and in my opinion, outplaying them, the Hamilton Bulldogs fall by a final score of 5-1, their fourth straight setback. If I sounded depressed, it's because I was. Now, I knew that Hamilton outshot Wilkes-Barre Scranton 27-19. I suspected the Bulldogs outchanced the Penguins, something that I actually confirmed with head coach Sylvain Lefebvre after the game. He told me that his pack of dogs had 17 scoring chances to the Pens' 16. And I mean, it's never easy to lose, but even tougher to lose when you outshoot, outchance, and outplay your opponent, and then to lose 5-1? Really?
Unfortunately, it's the way it's been, Derek. The team has not been scoring, and that's borne out by those particular stats. One goal, even though you outchanced them.
So a tough loss for the Hamilton Bulldogs last Friday when they fell 5-1 to the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins. And following a 6-hour bus ride to get to that game in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania on Thursday, the Hamilton Bulldogs played the Penguins Friday and then bussed 2.5 hours to Syracuse, New York, where they clashed with the Crunch last Saturday. I was really anxious to see how the Dogs would respond to Friday's tough-to-swallow loss, and the Hamilton Bulldogs, as you know, have had a tough time scoring goals most of this season, and last Saturday they faced a goaltender, Kristers Gudlevskis. Does that name ring a bell?
Yes, it does.
Because, yeah, unfortunately, he was the guy who almost single-handedly cost Canada a gold medal in men's ice hockey at the 2014 Olympic Winter Games in Sochi. He stopped 55 of 57 shots for Latvia in their 2-1 loss to Canada in the quarterfinals. So he was unbelievable in that game, playing against some of the best players in the world. He was unbelievable in last Saturday's game, playing against the Hamilton Bulldogs. And with that said, as tough as he was to beat, as it turned out, Robert Meyer was even tougher to beat.
Well, Robert Meyer, he did well in the Spengler Cup, didn't he?
Certainly did. And on that note, here are the highlights. And now Nemestikov has it. He wheels through the neutral zone across the Hamilton blue line. Some reinforcements in off the Syracuse bench. Pateryn shoots and he scores! Finally, on the 42nd shot of the hockey game, one of these two teams has scored a goal, and it was a beauty. Great setup by Vlad Nemestikov, who slid the puck in front, and Brett Connolly chipped it over the outstretched glove of Robert Meyer. And the Syracuse Crunch, with 13-18 remaining in regulation time, take a 1-0 lead. The loose puck in front, Leblanc shoots, and he scores! The puck was slapped to the net from the right point. Kristers Gudlevskis made the save but couldn't control the rebound, and it bounced off Louis Leblanc's skate. The puck then trickled across the goal line just out of the Syracuse Crunch net, and the Hamilton Bulldogs square the score at 1. The 9th Hamilton Bulldogs shooter is Mike Blunden, his first shootout attempt of the season. And he's got the game on a stick. Blunden comes it up the left wing side, stick handles to the net, shoots, and he scores! Mike Blunden wins the game in round 9 of the shootout. The Hamilton Bulldogs win the shootout 1-0, and they defeat the Syracuse Crunch by a final score of 2-1. The game that didn't want to end finally does. Yeah, it took a little while though. After Brett Connolly gave Syracuse a 1-0 lead on the 42nd shot of the hockey game, Louis Leblanc, who's right over here, scored for Hamilton, forcing overtime and eventually a shootout, and then Mike Blunden finally ended the hockey game, scoring the winning goal in the 9th round and on the 18th shot of the shootout, as the Bulldogs beat the Crunch 2-1 to snap their 4-game losing streak.
I've seen 9 rounds of shootout before, but usually there's some goals along the way. That was unbelievable. I agree with you. It looked like it was never going to end, but thank goodness for Blunden.
Yeah. So following last Saturday's contest, the Hamilton Bulldogs once again boarded their team bus and traveled 4.5 hours from Syracuse, New York to Toronto, Ontario, where on Sunday they wrapped up their second straight 3-3 weekend, and they did so with the 12th and final round of the American Hockey League's 2013-2014 Battle of Ontario with the Toronto Marlies. And heading into the game, Hamilton was 6-5-0-0 in 11 games versus Toronto. The Marlies 5-4-2-0 in 11 games against the Bulldogs. So with 12 points apiece, the season series was on the line.
The whole season series was on the line, and it always makes for a good hockey game when they play the Marlies, but particularly when it's the, let's call it the rubber game, because that's what it was.
Yeah, and from the drop of the puck, Hamilton was by far the more aggressive of the two teams, which was a little surprising because the Bulldogs were playing their third game in as many days in 3 cities, 2 states, 1 province, and 2 countries, and the Toronto Marlies didn't play on Saturday, so they should have been the more rested of the two teams, but they seem to be playing possum, a very patient style of hockey where they sat back and just waited for their opponent to make a mistake.
Yeah, that's what it looked like out there, and you did mention it on several occasions during the game, so you were right as it turned out. But, yeah, I was a little surprised the way the Marlies came out. Usually they try to lay the body on a couple of times and set the tone, so to speak, and see how the Bulldogs respond, which is usually pretty good. So I guess they just did a little change in their tack.
Yes, it was like a chess match.
Maybe,
both teams,
yeah.
They had their game plan, they stuck to it, and despite the final score, it was one heck of a hockey game. And, I mean, much like they did versus the Wilkes-Barre-Scranton Penguins last Friday, the Hamilton Bulldogs outshot and outchanced the Toronto Marlies on Sunday. I wouldn't go as far as to say they outplayed them because I think both teams played well. The Dogs also got off to a great start in Sunday's game. Here are the highlights. Courtnall keeps it in. He drops to Nattinen. Nattinen back to Courtnall. Courtnall shoots, and he scores! Justin Courtnall settles down a bouncing puck, goes forehand to backhand and buries it. And the Hamilton Bulldogs bite first and take a 1-0 lead. Keg, and now far side to Abbott. Precise passing here by Toronto. Abbott to Levo, Levo to McKegg, who hits the goal post. So the referee points to the net. We're going to call it a goal.
There's a replay on that one.
The green light went on. The red light did not. They're going to have to check this on the video review. I heard a clank.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that puck hit the goalpost and stayed out of the net. We'll have to wait and see what happens, but right now, based on the call by the referee, Tom Shimilewski on the ice, it's a 1-1 hockey game. Holland, and now it'll bounce behind the net. Devan centers, Carrick shoots and scores! A breakdown in the defensive zone, and the Hamilton Bulldogs give up a goal. The Toronto Marlies playing possum today, waiting for their opponent to make a mistake. The Dogs finally did, and Sam Carrick makes them pay for it. slipping the puck under Robert Meyer into the back of the Hamilton Bulldogs net. The Toronto Marlies have scored 2 unanswered to take a 2-1 lead. Tonight, here's McKegg with a shot, and he scores! The puck took a weird bounce out in front of the Hamilton Bulldogs net, and Greg McKegg was Johnny on the spot, and he slipped it under Robert Meyer. And the Toronto Marlies, again, take advantage of a breakdown in the defensive zone by the Hamilton Bulldogs. They have now scored 3 unanswered goals, and they've got a 3-1 lead. D'Amico's got an open net. He steps in and shoots and scores! Jerry D'Amico almost missed.
I was going to say, just barely.
He rang it off the goalpost and in. But the Toronto Marlies have scored 4 unanswered goals, the latest into an empty Hamilton Bulldogs net. And with a minute and a half remaining in the third period, the home team has a 4-1 lead. And that'll do it. The Toronto Marlies win the 12th and final round of the American Hockey League's 2013-2014 Battle of Ontario, and they win the season series following a 4-1 come-from-behind win here at Ricoh Coliseum today. Yeah, another tough loss for the Hamilton Bulldogs, who, in my opinion, definitely deserved to pick up at least 1 point in that hockey game.
Yeah, better fate. But, every time it's that McKegg guy. He drives me crazy. He has really had a good couple of years against the Hamilton Bulldogs.
I hate to sound like a homer here, but that shot that we thought went off the goalpost and stayed out that actually went off the back bar and in,
right.
And then the empty net goal that did go off the goalpost and in, those are 2 breaks that the Toronto Marlies get in that hockey game that the Hamilton Bulldogs really haven't had all season long. If they fire those shots, one goes off the crossbar, the other one goes off the goalpost, and both pucks stay out of the net.
Which is exactly what happened.
Yeah.
There were some iron hit down the other end by the Bulldogs, but anyway, that's the way it goes.
Yeah, and in speaking with head coach Sylvain Lefebvre after the game, he told me that his team had 2 bad shifts in the third period, and those 2 shifts cost them the hockey game. So that's got to be tough to swallow. Despite playing well enough to win all 3 games last weekend, Hamilton only won 1. And having played 61 of the 76 games on the regular season schedule, the Bulldogs are now 26-30-1-4, have 57 points, and are 15th in the Western Conference. And with 15 games remaining and 30 points still on the table, they're 12 points behind the Rockford Ice Hogs for the 8th and final playoff position in the Western Conference. Now, the Dogs do have 2 games in hand on the Hogs, but they're probably going to have to go something along the lines of 12-3, 11-4 in their final 15 games to have a chance to qualify for the 2014 Calder Cup playoffs. The good news is the Hamilton Bulldogs have been better on the road than they have been at home this season.
Yes.
And 10 of their final 15 games are on the road. Now, with that said, they've got 3 home games this week. They better win at least 2 of them.
Yeah, I think you still want to be at home, as we were discussing on the broadcast, Derek. You always, if you had your druthers, you'd want to be at home, but it's just not worked out this year, and really they've been very good on the road. I think that's not a bad record, a couple of games above 500.
Yeah. And we'll preview this week's games against the Abbotsford Heat, 2 of them, and the Milwaukee Admirals a little bit later on in the show. But coming up next, we're going to be joined by Hamilton Bulldogs forward Louis Leblanc. Do you have a question for Louis? Tweet it to us at BulldogsAHL with the hashtag HBHH, and we'll ask him for you when we return to Anchor Bar to continue the Hamilton Bulldogs Hockey Hour on AM 900 CHML and the all-new 900CHML.com. And welcome back to Frank and Teresa's Anchor Bar, located inside of Jackson Square, right next to First Ontario Centre in downtown Hamilton. We are here for the 9th and final episode of the Hamilton Bulldogs Hockey Hour for this 2013-2014 season, and very pleased to be joined by third-year man Louis Leblanc. Welcome to the show, Louis.
Thank you.
You are a 23-year-old native of Pointe Claire, Quebec. Did you grow up a Canadiens fan?
I sure did.
What was it like to be drafted by your favorite team in the first round, 18th overall back in the 2009 NHL entry draft?
It was a great honor. My whole family was there, and it was in Montreal also, so it made it even more special. And that day I'll always remember for sure.
I have a very important question to ask you. Do you like the show Suits? Have you seen it?
I've never seen it.
You should watch it. You want to know why?
Why?
Because all of the lawyers on Suits went to Harvard Law. You went to Harvard, which leads me to my next question. How the heck did you get into Harvard? I've known you for 3 years.
It's a good question. I guess I had good marks in high school and had a good SAT score. So
What was it?
it was 1900.
Wow.
It's not bad.
That's better than not bad. What was that experience like? Harvard might be the most famous school in the world. Obviously, it's an unbelievable school for academics. They've got some pretty good sports teams there as well. What was it like going to school there and playing for the Crimson for a year?
It was great. Had a good coach. Teddy Donato played for the Bruins for a few years, I think. And, a teammate there is now playing for Tampa Bay, Alex Killorn. Was having a great season there. And learned a lot. And I was able to do a full year of school also.
Now, you made the decision to leave and go to the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. Why'd you do that?
I wanted to play more games. I was able to come back to my hometown and play for the Montreal Juniors. And, I was cut the year before from the World Junior team. And, I thought going that route would give me a better opportunity to make the team.
And you certainly had the offensive firepower with them, as in 51 games you had 58 points, so an awfully good start, even though you were going sort of the opposite direction that a lot of players would.
Yeah, exactly. Things happen in your career, and you make choices. But so far I've been happy with everything I've made, and it was a good choice.
I just want to go back to one thing you talk about Montreal and being your area, Point Claire, of course, and. But isn't it unbelievable every time you go back there, even as a Bulldog, there's this huge scrum of people that are interested in all the Bulldogs, as a matter of fact, but particularly a guy like Louis Leblanc.
Yeah, it's special to see, people love their hockey in Montreal, and I think the whole province of Quebec, actually. But, they love the Canadians, they love following the Bulldogs, and, being from there is for sure very special.
Now, you proved that you're a tough guy because you played through an injury in your season of junior, didn't you?
Yeah, I had, torn labrum in my shoulder, and, it was bugging me, throughout the whole season, and I got it done at the end of the year.
And you wanted to play in World Juniors. Is that one of the reasons you waited?
Yeah, I think so. It's a big accomplishment. You play with the best, under 20 players in Canada, and, it's not the result we wanted in Buffalo that year, but it was still a great experience, and it's something I'll never forget for sure.
So you wound up having surgery in the summer of 2011. Didn't make your professional debut until October 27th of 2011, but what a debut it was. I've got a clip.
Now Callahan picks it up for the Bulldogs. He gives it to Enqvist. He turns into the near quarter and centers. LeBlanc, he shoots, and he scores! Louis LeBlanc scores the game-winning goal in sudden death overtime. Playing in his first professional game, he gets the game winner in OT to go with 2 assists. What a debut for Louis LeBlanc as the Hamilton Bulldogs beat the Rochester Americans 3-2.
I don't know who that lunatic was screaming and yelling, but you play your first pro game, you get the game-winning goal in overtime, you had a couple of assists before that. Did you dream it could have gone that well?
Not really. I was a little nervous, to be honest. My first game just came off shoulder surgery, and it was a big step, going from juniors to the American League, and just excited to play my first game. And I think everything was going well that night for me. That's for sure.
So in just 32 games, you had 11 goals and 11 assists. How would you rate that opening year for you in the end, even with the few number of games you played?
I think it was very good. I was able to play 42 games with the Canadians that year also, and I think I performed really well, and I was happy for sure with that season.
Yeah, absolutely. You had 5 goals, 5 assists, 10 points in your 42 games with the Montreal Canadiens. But I want to ask you about your NHL debut with the Habs. November 30th, 2011. I heard a story that Eric Cole did something pretty special for you and for your family.
Yeah, he, I got called up. I flew to Anaheim. I met the team there, and, I met Eric, that summer before the season started, and we kind of got, pretty close. And he asked me if my parents were going to come to the game, and I said, there's no way. I mean, they're in Montreal, and I got called up the games tomorrow, so it was kind of hard to get them down here. But he gave me his credit card and told them to make sure they were at the game. So my parents were able to come, and I thank Eric, and it was awesome to have him there.
What was going through your head when you put that Montreal Canadiens jersey on for the first time in the regular season and stepped on the ice as a member of your favorite team growing up, the Habs?
No, I felt awesome, felt relieved. It was a dream come true, and took me a few days to actually realize that it actually happened. And it's for a kid from Montreal, it's probably the best feeling ever.
Now, you scored your first NHL goal December 15th, 2011 versus the Philadelphia Flyers. Did it at Bell Center in Montreal. Take us through that goal and what you were thinking about as you scored it, after you scored it, and then once you had a little bit of time to think about it and soak it in.
Yeah, it was a play. Actually, Daniel Briere was on the ice. He's with the team now with the Canadiens, and PK Subban shot. Blunden deflected it, and there's a loose rebound in front of the net, and I was able to just whack it in, and then the crowd went crazy. It was awesome feeling, and everybody was happy. It was another special moment. I have the puck on my house, and it's great memories for sure.
And what's followed for Louis Leblanc is a few trips to the National Hockey League, and you've come back each time. What's your mindset now about how your career's being guided, I guess, by the parent club? Your thoughts? How do you feel?
I feel good. It's a long process, and I think when I went up this year, I showed I could play in the National Hockey League. I had 8 good games, and it's just a question of me, cracking the lineup on a full-time basis, and proving I could stay there for 82 games.
Do they have good communications with you, and they say, Louis, you're going back down, and they get you in the room and tell you why, and or you're just out of here? Or do they tell you, work on this? Yeah,
obviously they tell you what to work on. They have reasoning to send you down, Sometimes, mostly it's because, injured players in Montreal are coming back, and there's just no room, right? So, you got to come back here and work with the coaches, work with the staff, and, when you do get the next call, you got to be as ready as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Hamilton Bulldogs Hockey Hour here at Frank and Teresa's Anchor Bar is an interactive program. We've got a member of the audience up here to ask Louis a question, so I know who you are, but if you could tell us your name, where you're from, and then go ahead and ask your question.
I'm Frank Aerosmith, and I'm from Beamsville. The question I want to ask you, Louis, is there a team, when you were up in the NHL playing your games, was there a team that you really looked forward to playing against?
Yeah, that's a good question. The Leafs, Toronto Maple Leafs, the Boston Bruins, big rivalries with the Canadiens, and it was actually special. I played back in Boston for the first time, and a few Harvard friends came, and it was pretty special.
Was one of them named Mike Ross?
Nope.
No. You don't know who that is, but he's from Suits. He never actually went to Harvard, so it's a long story. You're going to have to watch the show. All right, Justin Dickey, our communications coordinator and broadcast statistician, is up here to ask a question that has been sent in by somebody on Twitter. Go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, sorry if I butcher this name, but it's a question from Didier Jadot. He wants to know, what's the thing that you have improved most in your game this year?
I think my skating. This summer I worked a lot with Patrick Kelly, and I think my skating has improved a lot this year for sure.
Talking to some scouts, they say that your rep as a bad skater is not fair. They said you have some strengths as a skater. I love to watch you when you've got the puck on your stick and you're in the corner or up along the boards. You twist and turn, and you're really tough to get off that puck. So that's one of your strengths. What weaknesses do you think you've got to work on to get to the NHL full-time? Because we all believe it's only a matter of time before you do.
Yeah, I think, it's, once you're up there, it's making the small plays, getting the puck in and out of your zone, so I think not turning it over and, maybe being better around the net, getting, quicker to those rebounds, just the small details of the game that, every player needs to improve on.
Being better around the net is something the Hamilton Bulldogs have to do, too, as we know. This is a team that does seem to have quite a bit of talent. And for whatever reasons, goals have been tough to come by, and because of that, wins have been tough to come by. You guys are still battling. I really thought you could have won all 3 games last weekend. There's 15 games to go. What do you guys have to do to stay in the playoff chase, to give yourself a chance at least?
I think, we got to look at it one shift at a time. We can't look at the next 5 games or whatever. It's tomorrow's game, and we got to win that game, get the 2 points, and then move on. It's can't look at the big picture. I think we're still going to battle till the end, and guys are confident. We got to keep pushing in the same direction.
Well, Al and I have always been big fans of yours. Maybe not quite as big a fan as Nathan Beaulieu is, because today he was walking around the rink with a T-shirt that just had your face on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think he misses me.
You get royalties for that?
No, I don't.
You
no.
should. Absolutely should. Louis, it's always a pleasure to be around you, to chat with you off the ice, and to watch you play on the ice. Continued success, and we'll watch you as you continue down your road to the National Hockey League.
Thank you.
There is Hamilton Bulldogs forward Louis Leblanc joining us here at Frank and Teresa's Anchor Bar for another installment of the Hamilton Bulldogs Hockey Hour. Coming up when we come back, one of his teammates, defenseman Greg Pateryn, or at Greg_Pateryn on Twitter. If you've got a question for Greg, you can tweet it to us at BulldogsAHL with the hashtag HBHH. Maybe we'll ask him when we come back to Anchor Bar to continue the Hamilton Bulldogs Hockey Hour on AM 900 CHML and the all-new 900CHML.com. Led Zeppelin to bring us back to Frank and Teresa's Anchor Bar for the final installment of this 2013-2014 season of the Hamilton Bulldogs Hockey Hour. Derek Wills alongside of Al Craig. It was a pleasure chatting with Louis Leblanc, and we've got another great guest up here now, Hamilton Bulldogs defenseman Greg Pateryn. Welcome to the show, Greg.
Thanks for having me.
What was your SAT score?
I never took the SAT. I only took the ACT.
How does that compare to the SAT?
Ivy League schools usually take the SAT, and more schools in the Midwest and kind of around the area that I grew up kind of took the ACT. So I mean, it was a very similar test, but just different. I'm not really sure the exact difference, but it was a standardized test that was taken by certain schools, and others wanted different ones.
But you would have scored higher than Louis on your SATs, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
There's
just
no
wanted
doubt.
to check. You just didn't want to go to Harvard.
No.
Do you watch the show Suits?
I do.
Good show, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm not up to date on everything, but I have seen quite a few episodes.
I won't say anything because I don't want to ruin it for you.
Okay.
Definitely one of my favorite shows right now. You know who Mike Ross is. Maybe he went to Michigan because he didn't go to Harvard. We know that much. Anyways, back on track. You're a 23-year-old native of Sterling Heights, Michigan, right by Detroit, right?
Yeah, right around Detroit. Not in Detroit, but near Detroit.
Did you grow up a Red Wings fan?
I did. I did grow up a big Red Wings fan.
Favorite player?
Steve Eiserman.
I thought you might say Nicholas Lidstrom, a defenseman.
Yeah, he was a close second, but definitely Steve Eiserman.
So you were selected in the 5th round, 128th overall by the Toronto Maple Leafs in the 2008 NHL entry draft, and then actually acquired by the Montreal Canadiens, along with the 2nd-round draft pick for a former Hamilton Bulldog, Mikhail Grabovski. Start with the draft, take us through getting drafted, and then move along to the trade and talk about getting traded before you ever played a game of professional hockey.
Well, I was on my couch, laying down on my couch, and my dad had the draft on TV, and I was actually running out. It was my graduation party, and I was running out to go get ice, I believe. And right when they went to commercial break, I saw my name come up, and I was still a little bit in shock and kind of still excited, but I told my mom that I just got drafted just very casually, and she just started freaking out. And
you didn't think you were going to get drafted, or?
Well, I wasn't really sure. I mean, I talked to my family advisor at the time, and he said that he had spoken to some teams, and I had some interviews, so I wasn't really sure. It was up in the air, and I got drafted, and my parents were ecstatic, and I was very excited as well. And then about a week later, I got a call at 8 in the morning from Toronto saying I was traded to Montreal, and I was just kind of like, okay, well, thank you. Wasn't really expecting anything, but then just took it 1 year at a time from there.
Now, you spent 4 years at the University of Michigan playing for the Wolverines. Great school, great hockey program. Talk about your experience.
It was definitely some of the best times of my life. The people you meet there, the memories you make with your friends, and just watching people go through hockey and other sports, and just having those bonds is something that you can't really get anywhere else. And the tradition there is second to none. So very professional organization there. They definitely treat you like pros, and some people that go through might say we're even spoiled, but it was definitely a great experience overall, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.
All right, let's get down to the facts. You scored 6 goals in 142 games with the Wolverines. You come to Hamilton, And I don't know what we expected. I don't know what you expected. 7 goals in 39 games in your rookie season. What took you so long?
Yeah, I wasn't really. I didn't know what to really expect, and obviously I have a pretty hard shot, and I think taking the cage off of the helmets definitely scares some guys away. So.
Why, your looks? Or
yeah, I don't know. They
seem like a regular-looking guy.
Yeah, they just get out of the lane more.
But, it's continued for you, actually, too. 17 goals in 93 career AHL games. And you can tell, because you're really letting them fly from the point now, that's important.
Yeah, I think, once you get those first few in and you kind of know when you need to shoot the puck and when to look for a different play, I think it definitely, you definitely learn as you start playing more games. And, this year I've just been trying to, as weird as it may sound, just shoot as hard as I can and hope for the best sometimes. But, it's been working.
Well, I'm sorry. I was just going to say what I thought was remarkable was the broken elbow and then coming back strong like you never left. I mean, you were gone a long time.
Yeah, I think, getting hurt in your 7th professional game, was very, very demoralizing and, it was very difficult to stay positive. But, as soon as I came back, I was just really excited to get back with the team, and I think I used that as motivation to just pick off where I started.
Very good.
Back in the old days, you had to play major junior hockey if you wanted to get to the NHL because there weren't as many scouts. They weren't scouting all of the schools in Canada and more so the U.S. But nowadays, you can play in the NCAA, and if you're a good player, the scouts will find you just as easily as they will in the CHL. Playing 4 years at the University of Michigan for the Wolverines, do you think you were more ready for your first year of professional hockey because you were a little bit older with a little bit more experience? Because to me, you didn't act like a rookie on or off the ice last season.
I think physically and, as far as the whole living and taking care of yourself goes, I think I definitely was ahead of the game that way. I mean, I come into professional hockey being 22, so, versus 19 years old. And, you're living on your own for 4 years already, and you're getting a set amount of money, take care of yourself, and, you got to pay the bills, pay rent, make sure the water doesn't turn off, and, little stuff like that. But, I think physically and in that aspect, definitely. But, the long season and the high number of games, I think definitely is a major junior advantage in that sense.
Yeah, good point. All right, we've got a question from the crowd here at Frank and Teresa's Anchor Bar, the Hamilton Bulldogs Hockey Hour, an interactive program. Time to interact with our fans. Step up to the mic, tell us your name, where you're from, and then go ahead and ask Patty your question.
All right, so my name is Rico. I'm from Germany, so I'm a big Bulldogs fan, and I've been to a couple of games now, and I've seen the Bulldogs taking the lead a couple of times, but they seem to have a hard time scoring a second goal and just, close the game then. So maybe from your side, what do you think is the reason for that? Why do they have a hard time just closing their game with a second or third goal and then just winning it?
Good question.
I think it's something we've struggled with all year, and getting off to a good start, or I think we just it's one or two shifts that really gets us on our heels, and whether it being them score a goal or get a few opportunities, I think it's definitely the momentum swinger in most of the games.
All right, a question from the crowd, and now a question from Twitter. Justin Dickey's got it for us.
We got a couple here. First one's a quick one. It's from Maria. She wants to know, if you were to eat ice cream for the rest of your life, what flavor would it be?
I love it.
I think if I were to eat ice cream the rest of my life, I think I would eat pistachio flavor.
Oh, that's good, yeah.
Okay. And Dean Cassidy wants to know, what have you seen improved on this year's team compared to last season's team?
As far as this year's team compared to last year's team, I think we've definitely been more sporadic at times. However, the good thing about it is we've when we are playing well, we are playing as a team and we're playing for each other. Whereas I think last year we were a lot more inconsistent. So I think even though we've gone on stretches of winning and losing this year, I think we've definitely been playing for each other, which is the biggest part.
All right, one more question from the crowd. Run up to the microphone because we're running out of time. Name, where you're from, question, please.
Michelle Aerosmith, Beamsville. Greg, I was looking up some statistics on you, and your game has changed from when you were with the Ohio Blue Jackets.
You're going way back now.
Oh, yeah. Significantly in penalty minutes, actually. I was quite surprised to see the number. It was like 145 minutes.
Are you a goon?
No, I wasn't a goon. I only had one fight that year, but I guess I was in the penalty box a lot, and whether it be from taking lazy penalties or what, I don't really remember. That was a while ago. Wow, that's a long time.
That is a long time ago. Seems like forever ago. Before we let you go, I've got to ask you about your National Hockey League debut with the Montreal Canadiens, March 9th, 2013, in Tampa, Florida, against the Lightning. You worked a long time. You worked really hard to get to the NHL. What was that experience like?
It's something that you'll remember the rest of your life. The day you get called up, and the day you walk into the dressing room with guys that you used to watch on TV when you were younger, and it's really something special. And it's definitely an experience that you can't put in words. And I've been fortunate enough to be able to experience something like that.
Well, Greg, you have scored 17 goals as a member of the Hamilton Bulldogs in about a full season now, if you add last season and this season's games up together. And I'll tell you what, you're going to score a lot of goals in the National Hockey League. We can't wait to see you do that when you get back to the Montreal Canadiens, which is probably going to be sooner rather than later. Thanks for joining us here tonight, and best of luck to you and the guys this week.
Thanks for having me.
There's Hamilton Bulldogs defenseman Greg Pateryn joining us here on the Hamilton Bulldogs Hockey Hour. We're going to take a break and then come back to wrap up not only this show, but this season of the Hamilton Bulldogs Hockey Hour. We'll preview the week ahead for the Hamilton Bulldogs when we return to Frank and Teresa's Anchor Bar for the Hamilton Bulldogs Hockey Hour on AM 900 CHML and the all-new 900CHML.com. And welcome back to Frank and Teresa's Anchor Bar, our final segment of our final show of the 2013-2014 Hamilton Bulldogs Hockey Hour. Great to have Louis Leblanc and Greg Pateryn on the show. Here's what's ahead for them and for their teammates this week. 2 games against the Abbotsford Heat, AHL affiliate of the Calgary Flames. We've got them in town tomorrow, 7:30 p.m., Saturday, 7 p.m. The Hamilton Bulldogs, 26-31-4, have 57 points, are 5th in the North Division, 15th in the Western Conference. The Abbotsford Heat, 34-22-5-2, 75 points, 2nd in the West Division, and 5th in the Western Conference. The final 2 meetings of the season, the Bulldogs 2-2-0-2 in 6 games against the Heat so far in 2014, and the Abbotsford Heat might be coming in at the right time. They are 1-7-1-1 in their last 10 games. A great opportunity to see Hamilton Bulldogs all-time leading scorer Corey Locke, a member of the Dogs' 2007 Calder Cup championship team.
30 seconds.
And he'll play for the Abbotsford Heat. And tomorrow, Olympic recognition night. Megan Augusta and Hamilton's own Laura Fortino, 2 members of Canada's gold medal winning women's ice hockey team at the 2014 Olympic Winter Games, here to drop the puck and sign autographs in the first intermission. We've got a gold package up for grabs, $25. You get a lanyard, an autographed photo of both girls, and a meet and greet with them after the game. Pretty good deal. So that's Wednesday, Saturday, Friday, the Milwaukee Admirals in town, and that should be a great game as well. You can listen to them all right here on AM 900 CHML, or you can get your tickets at the First Ontario Centre box office. This is the final episode of the Hamilton Bulldogs Hockey Hour. Thanks to all the fans who came out and tuned in. And thanks to our guests tonight, Louis Leblanc and Greg Pateryn. Thanks, as always, to Justin Dickey and Steve Turner, as well as Luke Vermeer, and to the staff here at Frank and Teresa's Anchor Bar. And until tomorrow night and another Hamilton Bulldogs game, good night, everybody, from Frank and Teresa's Anchor Bar.